Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say, and a very, very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. On today's show, we discuss my concerns for Blue Beetle as a trailer comes out later today. Or have you already seen that trailer? Because I'm recording this on Monday morning, Cyprus time, European time. So by the time this video uploads, maybe, most probably, you've seen this trailer. Now, I will react to this trailer either later on today, depending when it happens or when the timings, because the timings in Europe and America are so vast and different. But you will get a reaction from me about the Blue Beetle trailer. But we have had a teaser. Most of it was bold letters, but there was a little bit of a scene. We'll get into it. And we're going to keep on talking about this viral campaign for Joker Folie à Deux a little bit later on, and talk about the genius of Todd Phillips. I just showed you the picture of Harley and the Joker on the iconic stairs that Joker dances on in the first Joker movie from 2019. So we'll be chatting all about that a little bit later on. But yesterday we had confirmation that we're getting a Blue Beetle trailer, or got, depending what time. It's like being in a TARDIS, it's like being in a time machine, isn't it? I can't keep up with it. But basically, you've probably seen the Blue Beetle trailer by the time this video has uploaded. Anyway, so they teased the Blue Beetle trailer for today, which is Monday, and they showed a little snippet of it. Now, what's very interesting about this is that the family seem to already know that Jamie is Blue Beetle, or that the scarab has at least attached itself to him. Now, from what I've been told, and I've never, I've not read the Jamie Reyes, comic book adventures of Blue Beetle. I've read a little bit of Ted Cord, that's it. So, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently in the comics, the family don't know that Jamie is Blue Beetle. So already they're breaking a little bit of canon there, but we already know they're breaking canon, creating this Susan Sarandon character, Victoria Cold, as well. So there's a lot of things they're doing differently. Now, I want you to remember something. Now, Blue Beetle, when it was shot, was made for HBO Max. It was never made to be screened cinematically. Now, this is a very, very curious situation. Will it be, when we go and see this in movie theatres, if you've seen the trailer yet, or when we see the trailer, will you notice that this is a movie made for HBO Max, or does it look like a cinematic movie? A very, very interesting situation. Now, I can't remember if they were in the shooting process when they made the announcement that it was moving to movie theatres from HBO Max. So it'll be interesting if it was actually made for HBO Max or movie theatres. Because that was the original idea. Batgirl and Blue Beetle were both going to air on HBO Max. That's one problem that audiences may find with this movie. Because the problem is, there's another issue here as well, that they're really cataloguing the Latino family unit, or the Latinx, that's the correct term, isn't it? Latinx family unit. Here's the thing. I can't imagine a huge portion of the general audience wanting to sit there watching a family, congregate. And, in interviews, we've seen this already, where they've actually discussed, how it's going to be about a working class, poverty-stricken Latinx family, and how everyone will be able to see themselves in this movie, or at least if you're Latinx. I just don't see how you get huge box office from these kind of things. And this is the problem when activists take over companies. When Hollywood is run by activists. All I want to see, and I'm sure all you want to see, is an awesome, epic Blue Beetle movie. But at this point, we don't know what kind of movie they're going to give us. Because Shazam, the first Shazam and Shazam Fury of the Gods, also tried to do the family thing. But it didn't work. Now, maybe this attempt at doing Blue Beetle will be a little bit more successful. We don't know. Now, the test screenings, as we've discussed many times, have been very, very positive. That's a good thing. So we'll see if, positive test screenings for The Flash and Blue Beetle translate into wonga, dollars, dimes, dollar bills. We will see. Because, as usual, you get all the hype from DC fans, my fellow DC fans over on social media. We're winning, we're trending. We had this with Black Adam, we had this with Shazam Fury of the Gods, everyone hyping this up. DC fans bragging that the latest DC project is trending. And then, when we get to movie theatre releases, what happens? These movies flop. So why, if something's trending, like all the DC content, like Black Adam, like Shazam Fury of the Gods, why don't the trends ever translate, to huge box office? Well, I'll explain to you, because most people, movie Twitter or even DC Twitter, the people who post on there don't go and support the movies. That's a fact. That's the only possible explanation, because if something's trending on Twitter, why don't those trends translate to box office numbers or even cinema scores? The cinema scores ain't that great. The cinema score, what was it? B minus, B plus, whatever it was for Shazam Fury of the Gods. Or was it lower than that? I can't remember. And Black Adam, I don't think had the best of cinema scores either. So why isn't this translating? Why isn't the hype on social media for DC projects translating? Because if something's trending, it's clear a huge amount of people are talking about it and hyping it up. So why don't all you people who hype this stuff up, I'm told all the time, when my premiere launches and I'm saying, oh Mick, yeah, Blue Beetle trailer's coming out. That's awesome, I can't wait. But are you going to support this movie? Are you doing your bit? If you're excited for something, unless you can't afford to go, that's another situation. That's absolutely understandable. But are you choosing to go and see other movies apart from DC movies? Why hype your excitement about something if you have no intention of actually going to see the movie? So the mystery in terms of DC movies, the past 5 movies failing, and it is a mystery. Why was James Gunn's The Suicide Squad a flop? Birds of Prey, a little bit more understandable, but there was huge hype for that movie on Twitter as well, as there was the other movies. Wonder Woman 84 was during the pandemic, so we're going to excuse that film, even though it's a piece of shit. It would have made a little bit of money in movie theatres, but we don't know how much. We will never know. And that film got away with it and got a green light for a third movie straight away. That third movie is no longer happening. James Gunn certainly kicked that into touch very early, and that's one of the few decisions he's made I've actually agreed with. He's clever enough to understand that he wants to go his own direction with Wonder Woman. And we'll see how much of a reboot the DCU actually is, because clearly it's not a total reboot, because his Suicide Squad universe is involved in it. But later on down the line, you don't be surprised if he announces that none of that stuff will even be part of the new universe. You never know. He may be pressured with by Zaslav as well. So be aware that, this DC universe is an ever-changing situation all the time. They'll react on the box office, because it will be interesting to see how many people view the Blue Beetle trailer as well. For example, on Tuesday, the Spider-Verse sequel, I forgot the title of it, but the animated Spider-Verse sequel will release a trailer. Now, we all know that more people are more excited for that animated Spider-Man movie than they are for Blue Beetle. That's a fact. But why has an animated movie got more hype than a Blue Beetle movie, a DC movie? Well, obviously, Blue Beetle isn't the biggest of characters, and the old DCEU doesn't have enough interest around it to compete with something like the Spider-Verse sequel. It's a much anticipated movie. It's a much more anticipated movie than Blue Beetle. Because the truth is, the only people actually looking forward to Blue Beetle are DC fans. Nobody from the actual general audience outside of the DC fandom could give a living shit about Blue Beetle. But everyone who goes to cinema is looking forward to the animated Spider-Verse sequel. And that's the point, because the first movie was so successful. But what's very, very interesting, if we move this conversation on and compare Spider-Verse and the anticipation to that sequel trailer and that movie to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, why are so many people not as excited for the sequel to $1 billion movie? Could it be that the $1 billion box office was an absolute random accident and, there's not enough people hyped to see the sequel? The Amber Heard situation has not helped. The change of ownership at WB has not helped. Jason Momoa co-writing that script hasn't helped. Poor test screenings and the public knowing about those poor test screenings haven't helped. Now, you can say what you want about Sony, how they interfered with Spider-Man 3, that ended the Sam Raimi franchise, but look at their record in terms of Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2, even Spider-Man 3 actually made a healthy box office despite the controversy behind the scenes. Look at The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Solid entries into the Spider-Man live-action universe. Then the Spider-Verse animation. These are not Marvel-Disney decisions. These are Marvel-Sony decisions. Excuse me. So even Sony have done a better job at running their Marvel Cinematic Universe more than DC have. Yeah, you can argue about Morbius all day. Morbius, yes, wasn't very popular. It's a much-memed movie. But then you look at Venom. Although some people criticise the Venom movies, they do bring home the bacon. And ultimately, that means Sony have done a good job with those movies. Whatever you think about them, they're making money. So you look at Sony and then you look at WB and DC and the mess they've made of DC live action. And so we have yet another upcoming DC movie that seems to be highly anticipated, but we've been here before, haven't we, everyone? Will the trends translate into box office? We'll have to wait and see. Well, who's a clever boy then? Stand up and take a bow, Todd Phillips, because this, everyone, is free marketing from the man who was David Zaslav's first choice to be CEO of DC Studios. Todd was interested but didn't want to work with Peter Safran, and I don't blame him. But look, everyone's saying, oh look, we're getting all these pictures, oh my god, these leaks. You don't think that Todd is doing this on purpose? This is great marketing. He did it with the first film and said, oh no, all these pictures getting out. He was loving it. This is great marketing. This doesn't give much away about the plot of the movie. We don't even know what direction the movie's going in. We know it's a musical. We know that Harley's in it with the Joker. So that's exciting. And let's be clear here. There's never been a whole live action movie about Harley and the Joker. I mean, this is fantastic. These are great pictures. They're on those iconic stairs from the first movie and they're singing or they're dancing or whatever. It's going to be amazing. And the fact that it's going to be a musical, a great gamble from Todd Phillips, but I want bigger gambles in cinema. And especially comic book cinema. This is the future of comic book cinema. Taking the comic book genre and doing something very interesting. So there's another so this is the same picture from a different perspective. And again, they're looking great. They're looking happy. I think it's great for Joaquin to have someone to play alongside with. He loves Lady Gaga. He loves playing with her. And it's great. And here, one of the crew fell down the stairs, or nearly fell down the stairs, and Joaquin and Lady Gaga actually made sure the accident wasn't even worse. So I'm hearing the crew members, all right, absolutely brilliant. And here they are again. So these are some great pictures from this movie, and don't they look absolutely fantastic? So, you know, again, clever, free, viral marketing. That's what it is. You're getting these pictures. There's no secrecy. You know, Todd doesn't come out and smash over the head the constant rumors about the film. People are excited about this film, and Todd is allowing people to take certain pictures, and it's a very, very smart move. And as I said, he would have been a great CEO of DC Studios, but we've got James Gunn now. That's the way it is. But I think if you ask people in terms of DC, it is Joker 2, it is the Batman 2, it is the Penguin series on HBO Max that they're most excited about. And because, like, these are independent, individual movies where the director has creative freedom. And we've spoken about this before, how, you know, they're the films that you get so much from. You know, these Pattinson stands, they're all over the place. People dressing up as the Joker after the first movie. It's huge. I mean, the Joker is a big enough character without Batman. The Joker doesn't actually need Batman. Sometimes I feel Batman needs the Joker more than the Joker needs Batman. It's amazing that this villain, this iconic member of the Rogues Gallery, got his own movie, and now he's getting a sequel. And people were saying, oh, you know, we don't want a sequel. They're just going for the money. But there is a story to tell there with Harley Quinn. This was Todd Phillips' vision, to create a black label franchise and to catalogue different characters every time. But what's brilliant about this, you've got Joaquin back to show it's the same franchise. Now, I don't know if Harley ends up killing the Joker, if Joaquin's character ends up dying by the end of this film. It could be a tragic love story. They could end up killing each other. There could be some cameos from other characters from the DC Black Label universe as well. So I think we've got a great future, and I have no doubt that this film is going to make a lot of money. The truth of the matter is, movies like Blue Beetle, characters like Blue Beetle and Shazam need to be part of a franchise that's already successful and can handle that lower box office. You can't be relying on Blue Beetle and Shazam to get your wins for you. And you certainly can't expect the confidence of a general audience just to come in to support your movie just because it's got the DC brand on. The reason the first Ant-Man's and the second Ant-Man's lesser box office to other MCU characters was sustainable because the MCU was already a successful franchise. It doesn't matter that Ant-Man had a slightly less box office. It was still healthy. Ant-Man 2 had a slightly lesser box office than the other movies. You can sustain that when you've built up something huge. What you can't do is, right, for example, let's look at Doctor Who. The Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who had the main show, had Torchwood, that did huge numbers as well. But then you had the Sarah Jane Adventures, which was on CBBC. Clearly, it was very popular, but not as popular as the other two shows. But they could sustain it because Doctor Who was a huge, successful franchise. People were loving what RTD was doing at the time. So it's kind of a weird situation right now. People don't really understand that you can go and enjoy Blue Beetle and enjoy whatever type of film it's going to be. But you can't expect that movie to do huge numbers. It could have a healthy, smaller box office, like Dungeons and Dragons, 38 million domestic weekend. Very good for a film of that level. That's the kind of thing you should expect from Blue Beetle. Or even if Blue Beetle, makes Shazam Fury of the Gods opening money, that's not bad for that movie because that film was extremely cheap to make, and that's the difference. But everyone's expecting big things because DC, as a brand and a group of fans, are absolutely desperate for that next win. Where is that next win going to come from? Well, the last win was the Batman, so I would expect the next win will be from Joker, Folie à Deux, Batman 2 and Penguin, because the paradigm has shifted. And where before people were quite happy to watch these little pointless, bright and bubbly movies in terms of the MCU, I think in terms of DC, there are so many different factions of that fandom, and there's so many different dramas going on that's led some people to boycott some movies. Snyderverse, the people who hate Ezra Miller, the people who hate Amber Heard. It's become very, very problematic, and James Gunn hasn't been wholeheartedly embraced by the whole of the DC fandom either. So that's another issue. And until you sort these issues out, you can't lean on Blue Beetle's shoulders or Shazam's shoulders and expect them to make the money you want them to make. As a studio, that's wrong, and you pressure a movie. We've spoken about Shazam Fury of the Gods. We've reviewed that movie on this channel. But ultimately, there's nothing wrong with Shazam Fury of the Gods, but it isn't a movie that you can expect it to get you a big win. That movie is tailor-made to be part of a franchise that's already successful. And here's the thing, the DCEU, even when the first film was released, wasn't successful. It made under 400 million. It did well because of its budget. But ultimately, as the budget got bigger for the sequel, bigger things were expected. But without an already successful universe, prior to the sequel to Shazam, right, there was another 4 flops prior to that. So what did people actually expect? And as I say, there's been a paradigm shift here where people now are going to the cinema to watch Top Gun Maverick, John Wick 4. People were eagerly anticipating an announcement for John Wick 5. And we're already getting a spin-off as well, starring Ana de Armas, so it's all very exciting. So there's so many different fans of different franchises right now, and you can tell. I mean, last night they released the trailer for Secret Invasion. Years ago, the internet would have been full of it. There's a few of the usual YouTubers talking about it, hyping it up, Mama's Geeky, Matt Ramos, but the excitement isn't there anymore. And if you ask me, Secret Invasion should be on the big screen, not on the small screen. So things are changing, and I think the future of CBMs, as we've catalogued many times on here, is your Matt Reeves, is your Todd Phillips, is your Zack Snyder, if Zack Snyder's ever allowed to come back, which he absolutely should be. But the proof of the pudding really is in the eating. So they are allowing James Gunn to develop this new interconnected universe. We'll see if it makes any money. And if Superman Legacy doesn't make any money, of course, they're going to blame the relevancy of Superman in a modern, in a modern kind of a modern era. They'll blame Superman. They blame Superman for Justice League. They blamed Superman when Superman Returns failed. They didn't blame themselves in the directions they went in, because this is Hollywood. Hollywood live in this delusional state where, they never say, we got it wrong. When Superman Returns didn't make enough money, years later, Bryan Singer came out and said he picked the wrong actor, which was disgusting because Brandon Routh couldn't have done a better job. It weren't on Brandon Routh, it was your idea to make a sequel, and not a very good sequel to Superman 2. Now, of course it's problematic to try and make a sequel from a very old movie, but it could have worked if the Daily Planet and that universe actually looked like Dick Donner's universe. If you actually did something. if it actually made sense. But Bryan Singer didn't know if he was doing a sequel to Superman 2 or if he was doing a new vision. He tried to do both. And there's the problem. He gives Superman an illegitimate son when he could have just made him Connor Kent, which would have been a lot more exciting. So these people never blame themselves. It's always Superman's fault. It's always that person's fault. It's always that person's fault. It's the fault of the person whose name's on the door, who's, conducting the orchestra. And Bryan Singer conducted that orchestra, right? In terms of Man of Steel, if you feel that box office wasn't big enough, as the studio did, who do you blame? Do you blame Zack Snyder? Do you blame Chris Nolan? Do you blame, David Goyer? Well, you've got to look at it, haven't you? You can't just blame Zack Snyder. You've got to look at the three entities. And it was Goyer who decided to have Superman snap Zod's neck. So more of the blame should go on him rather than Zack Snyder or Christopher Nolan, who said to Goyer at the time, this is a very, very risky, direction you're going in. So he was warned. And many people think it was Zack Snyder who decided for Superman to snap Zod's neck, which is absolutely misinformation. And so, because when Superman fails, or something in DC fails, there's always this kind of appointing of blame. It's that person's fault. It's, you've always got to understand why something happens. So my whole point is that we can't expect too much from Blue Beetle, because if it does fail, it's not the film's fault. It probably is a good, solid, little family movie. But is there an audience for that solid, little family movie? Because they're all doing the family thing now. Shazam, Blue Beetle, Fast and the Furious. It works with the Fast and the Furious, but they've got this exciting kind of Mission Impossible type vibe going on as well, with cars. So it's pretty cool. It's not just about family. But will Blue Beetle have enough superhero action to satisfy audiences? If you're doing a character developed Latinx family, but you've got the superhero Blue Beetle excitement as well, that could work. But if you're just sitting there around the sofa watching a Latinx family just chatting while they know that, Jamie has the scarab, and they're having discussions about what to do with it, and it's just a silly little sitcom starring Blue Beetle, that's a problem. And people are not going to waste their money, because there's another reason that they've got a problem now as well, Hollywood, because there's not as much money to spend on streaming services, on visits to the movie theatre, so people are choosing very carefully what to go and watch. And I think that's an important thing to understand as well. So if you don't make good shit, people's wallets will remain in their pockets. And I think that's very, very important to understand as well. The paradigm shift is telling you that people want more serious films, not just in CBMs, but in general. And if you want to make comedies, tell us they're comedies so we know. Make romantic comedies, that's fine. And when you look at this brand new film starring Joaquin Phoenix as well, which again is produced by A24, I expect this film to take up every Academy Award next year. And this is the thing, because A24 have got a baseball bat and they're smashing Disney and Warner Brothers to pieces. A24 are not just an independent movie studio, they're becoming a dominant movie studio with the general audience as well. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was a huge hit for A24, and it was, an awards darling as well. So A24 are becoming the new normal. So there's a shift away from superheroes and capes now. So when you make these movies, they have to be damn good. And that's why I think the future is Matt Reeves, is Todd Phillips, and is Zack Snyder. This has been Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Smash the like button if you like me, or even love me, smash it even harder. Subscribe if you're new, and please have your say. Remember, I will be back at some point. Maybe I've already posted the Blue Beetle trailer. I don't know, because I'm so confused about timings. But we will react on this channel to the Blue Beetle trailer. I'm excited to see it. Let's see what happens. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.